Paksha Dvi. Dhritarashtra's earliest memories from boyhood were of a voice with and a hand. His brother's voice and hand. He did not recall the specific details of the first time, but he recalled one particular time when he, as a toddler, had stumbled and fallen. Born without the gift of sight, falling was something he did often back. Skinned knees and bruised elbows were such frequent occurrence that his were always escaped. But there were falls and there were falls. Some falls resulted in more than skinned knees and bruised elbows. He suffered a string of injuries, none too serious, but it's sufficient to deliver more lasting damage than more mere bodily harm alone. In most cases, it was his self confidence that was rarely hurt. To be able to run, to play, to gamble, or even to simply walk without constantly falling or colliding was something even the most ordinary of children enjoyed. Yet he, a prince of Hastinapur, her to the great Kuru Empire, could not take more than a few dozen paces without injury, could not play with the other children he heard laughing and squealing and running about with such abandon, could not do as his growing, energetic little body desired. There was no outlet to his boundless energy, no pancreas for his problem. The royal household did everything possible to ensure his safety and comfort. There were daimas and maids everywhere, but he was a child, a strong, robust boy with a growing body and eager, questioning mind. He wanted to cut loose, to run, play, yell, jump, tumble, to unleash the dog of youth. These luxurious were denied him. He had to sit and listen, merely listen, as other children did all those things when he tried. As he often tried to join them, it would always end the same way with him falling or colliding, injuring himself, bleeding and cut, or brushed and battered. And each time his self confidence diminished along with his zest of life. A bitterness took root in his heart. Question arose, why me? Why deny me this most basic of abilities? Why punish me in this manner? It is a punishment. It not? For what crime? What was my karma in past lives that I need suffer so in this life? Though everyone assured him that it was neither karma nor punishment, simply an accident of nature, he could not believe it. Adaima, the very one who had nursed him for birth, kept telling him that he had been handicapped because he was too strong, too brave, too intelligent, too powerful. The Devas feared your might. She told as she dressed him injuries and wiped his tears. They feared that you would come to Swarg one day and challenge them in their own abdoge. So they took away your sight, what you might never find the way. I don't want to challenge the Devas, he cried. I don't want to go to Swarg. I just want to see. His mother said nothing. She was barely present in his life, a shadow, a presence, a physical body that offered no warmth, comfort, or affection. She only saw him at night when he was brought to her after his bath, after he had been cleaned and dressed and made presentable to bid him a good night. Even then, she did so absently with a strange formality and a sense of distance. Even when he hugged her tightly, she would pat him on the back lightly, as if admonishing him for something he had done, and then If he continued holding on too tightly or too long, which was almost every night at first, she would speak to Daima, and Daima would gently untangle his little hands from around her neck and separate them. He could not recall a time his mother had fed him, dressed him, bathed, washed his cuts, dressed his wounds, or bandaged his injuries. Telling her about the day's accident only seemed to elicit the same response from her, a stiff silence followed by a curt, I see. No offer of sympathy, no words of reassurance, no gentle caress, or any other show of support, simply that vaguely disproving I see. Even the choice of phrase seemed designed to belittle him. I see, and you don't, you silly little boy, silly little blind boy. She never said anything so hurtful. She simply never said anything that showed affection or love. He heard other children with their mothers, the way they spoke, laughed together, played together, ate together. He heard babes struggling at their mother's breast, heard the female voices cry out with alarm when they saw their child about to come to harm or after he or she had hurt himself, heard the distress and concern in their maternal voices. He never heard such emotions in his mother's voice. And one that day, the day when he fell and a hand reached out and took hold of him, a voice spoke and strengthened him. It was not his mother's hand or voice, it was his brother's. Dhri, Pandu cried. Dhritarashtra gasped as he felt his feet swing out over emptiness. He scrambled backwards, trying to find his footing on the edge of the river bank. The heels of his feet slipped on the loomy mud. Slipping, he felt himself falling, heard the roar of the water below, and absurdly thought, at least I can't scrape my knees or elbows on water. Then his brother's strong hands were grasping him tightly beneath his armpits, surrounding him just like a vice. Pandu's breath was hot on his left ear, grunting and exclaiming as he too seemed to struggle with the wet, muddy ground. Then he yanked back down on Dhritarashtra, and both of them fell on their backs on the ground. They lay through there a moment, the mud soft and cool underneath. Dhritarashtra could feel the soft evening sunshine on his face, arms, and legs. He knew his special silk angvastra and dhoti must be soiled from falling in the mud, perhaps torn. He could hear the voices of Daimaj and the younger maids from behind calling out his name. Then the sound of footfalls slapping the damp riverbank. A moment later, he felt the presence of people all around, helping him up, fussing over him. He was about to step off the edge into the river. He couldn't have drowned. The waterfall so strongly here, he would have been taken down river in a flash. He would have been a mile away before we started after him. All this and more like it. He was used to it. He had been the center of many such scares and alarms. But he knew this was different. It was the anniversary of his naming day. For one thing, then, there was the river. He had never fallen into a river before. And of course, there was Pandu's wife right beside him. Dhri, are you well? He turned his head toward the sound of his brother's voice. He attempted a smile. Then, remembering that one of the children had spoke, you look like a vetal when you do that. He spoke aloud. Pandu, yes, Dri, Bhratra, it was all he could think of to say at that. Gratitude, affection, respect, adoration, all packed into that one word. Bhratra, brother. The Daimaj fought over Pandu, as did Bhishma Pitama and grandmother Satyavati when they were taken before their elders. You saved your brother's life, young Pandu. Dhritarashtra recognized the smooth, deep tones of his uncle's voice. They always reminded him of the roar of the river itself for one reason, though that was hardly possible. For how could a man's voice resemble the voice of water? Had he fallen into the river, he would be drowned or dashed against the rock downstream. This was grandmother Satyavati. Her husky, sonorous tones were unmistakable. Dhritarashtra heard Pandu sound a dismissive sound that would never happen. He heard his brothers say, "Not as long as I was there." There was a brief moment of silence. Dhritarashtra sensed that the elders were looking at each other in that moment, then looking at Pandu. He knew this for similar silence during conversations with other adults. People always did that if you said something unusual or unexpected. They looked at one another. He wondered why they did it. What would they see after all? Each other's faces. Surely faces did not change from moment to moment. Only voices could convey emotion, as far as he knew. But he also knew that there was much that he did not know. He heard in that silence their pride of for his brother, and heard that pride reflected in Pandu's reply, "Not as long as I am there." He felt a surge of emotion rise in his chest and felt tears rolling down his cheeks. That was the first time in his life he had a sense that there was someone in the world who actually cared if he lived or died, and who would risk his own life for him. Bhratra. Pandu felt deep sympathy and love for his brother. Even ever since could run and play, he had wanted to play with his brother, run alongside him, team up with him against the other children. He felt proud to know that he had a brother, a fellow heir to the great Kuru throne. It made him feel as if he was a part of something bigger than himself, an empire, a dynasty, a tradition, and a family. It had been difficult accepting that Three was not like him or like any of the other children. Sight was something Pandu, like all children, took so much for granted that he could not understand how anyone could not see and still alive. How could you not see all the colors, the shapes, the light, the people, the places, and the things? It was unthinkable. In the beginning, he had thought that maybe someday this would pass. One day, Three would wake up and he'd be able to see. Everything would be fine then. They could play and run and play at war games and have so much fun together. He even dreamed of it, happy dreams in which the two of them had wild, exotic adventures together, fighting Rakshas, battling the enemies of the Kuru Empire, besieging enemy forts, quelling rebellions, squashing troublemakers. These were all things he had heard Bhishma Pitama doing and dreamed of doing himself some day soon when he was old enough to fight too. In these dreams, Pandu, was different too. Her skin and eyes are normal, the same dark shade as other people of his race. He could see and fight do as he pleased naked if he wished by full sunlight, instead of having to constantly clothe himself in layers to protect his skin and vision from the sun, or wait until sunset to roam freely. They were a formidable pair in these dreams, Dhritarashtra and he. They were princes of the world. They went everywhere, did as they pleased, and no one would challenge them, survived. It was so wonderful. He would wake up smiling from these dreams and jump out of bed, eager to go to his brother and tell him.